So here I am inside the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, a car that I really don't know whether I'm going to like or not. From an aesthetic perspective, it's absolutely stunning, don't get me wrong, but I'm just not a huge fan of the SUV culture that we currently live in. I am more of an estate fan. I'm more of a Lotus guy than I am a Range Rover guy, if that makes any sense. But this car comes with 505 brake horsepower out of that 2.9 litre twin turbocharged V6. And it's not just like a party piece of being super performant or super fast or super whatever. This thing can actually handle as well, I've been told. I don't know if it still holds it, but it definitely had the record for the fastest SUV ever around the Nürburgring. Did a time of 7 minutes and 51 seconds. That is not bad at all around the ring. And I must say, even though I'm not an SUV guy, I think mentally as an Alfa Romeo guy, you might be able to tell, this is an SUV that I might actually consider as a daily driver if it's good enough. Now apologies all, I had some face to camera stuff outside of the car but my sound corrupted, but luckily it was all waffle anyway. All I wanted to say was 1, a huge thank you to Motorland for giving me the car to drive. Go check them out, link in the description and in the pinned comment, particularly if you want to buy this car obviously. And 2, currently over 75% of you watching this video aren't subscribed, so if you do want 2 free videos every single week, please do hit subscribe down below and maybe hit like too so that Motorland will let me review even more cars. Now I've worn my Alfa Romeo top today to remind you guys that I am heavily biased here. I've always been a huge Alfa Romeo fan, so I'm going to do my best today to not overhype the car. Now for this kind of driving, I think this is a perfect car. It's quite a stiff ride for these city streets, but it's not a luxury car. It's supposed to be racy, and I'm hoping and I'm praying that it is actually racy. It's very quiet in here, it's very comfortable. The only thing that so far would tell me that I'm driving something more aggressive is that stiffer suspension and the incredibly large amounts of carbon fiber around the car. I love it. This is exactly what I want out of a car. It's a super simple interior, nothing too crazy, but loads of carbon fiber to make me feel happy. And now the Giulia Quadrifoglio gets to 60 in 3.8 seconds. This, thanks to its all-wheel drive system, gets to 60 in 3.6 seconds. So actually, even though I'd rather have a Giulia from a looks perspective, obviously, you put the two side by side, this one is going to violate it off of the line. I say violate, it's 0.2 to 60, but it's still going to violate. And before I send it properly for the first time, I just wanted to address all the other Alfa Romeo purists out there. I can appreciate those of you that don't like the idea of a performance Alfa SUV. I get it. It's huge, it's kind of anti what fast should be. It's just big, burly, heavy and all the rest of it. But at least they've done a lot of lightweighting on this car, lots of carbon fiber used throughout the build, including with like the drive shafts, carbon fiber, all that kind of stuff to really decrease the weight of the build. But it's certainly a very different experience to the Alfa Romeo 4C. So we're coming up to my favorite road to send it on. Let's put the car into race mode. I'm into manual as well. Holy. Boy. Oh, sugar. Okay, it definitely shifts. Wow, it shifts, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, it's fast. I knew it was going to be fast. I'm not overly impressed by how fast it is, because it was always going to be fast, and it's all-wheel drive and it's got a lot of brake horsepower and all the rest of it. There are faster cars you can buy to drive around for this same purpose as well. However, what I'm impressed by is how flat it felt. I've driven some fast cars like this before in the past. They felt like they squat into the rear when you accelerate. Like, it felt like the suspension just wasn't quite as dialed. This thing feels like the suspension is super dialed when you accelerate. It felt very flat. And through the corners as well, like, I was coming at them at a rate of knots. My brain was like, you're in a huge car, you can't send it round there, like it's just not gonna go. But it does. It's kind of, this is pretty good, you know. Whoa, bro. Those brakes. I can't believe how good that, like, the impressive thing about this is not the pace. It absolutely is. The road holding, the handling, it doesn't feel like an SUV to drive around these roads. On those 20 mile per hour, 40 mile per hour city street kind of roads, it felt nice, like it felt comfortable, it felt civilized, it felt like a big car, it felt like I was nice and safe, like I owned the road, all the rest of it. That was kind of what it felt like. On these roads, when I've been sending it, it just feels like a race car that's got a bit too much body roll, but by that I mean a little bit. I can't believe like how sharp the car is. It's actually amazing. It's really good. Sounds good too, although could sound better. I think an exhaust on it would not go amiss. I have to keep reminding myself that I'm not driving a small car. When I start sending it, it feels like a small, agile, aggressive car. It doesn't feel like an SUV. It feels more like a hot hatch. It's like a hot hatch when my driving position is just higher. So I'm impressed with that. I'm impressed with the brakes. The brakes are just so strong. Anchors, they just pull the car down. As soon as you get on them, they stop straight away. I'm impressed with the interior because of how nice and how simple and yet how plush it feels. There's no build quality concerns on my side of things here. Everything feels premium, it feels luxurious, and it also feels like it's a race car. I'm having a really good time so far, and I'm about to have even more fun. It feels actually quite slow, and that's not because it is slow. Like, I'm feeling the G-forces through the body to tell me that it's very fast. However, it's so planted, and that's probably the SUV piece talking, right? It's an SUV, it's a big car, it's supposed to be able to handle anything you throw at it. It's all-wheel drive, all the rest of it. This is proper. I think if I was going to buy a daily driver SUV tomorrow that had a bit of performance and a bit of something about it, this has to be up there as a potential choice, because this is very fun to drive. In my head, I'm imagining my future 3-car Alfa Romeo garage, an Alfa Romeo 4C as my weekend car and my special car and that kind of stuff, an Alfa Romeo Quadrifoglio as like my M3 style executive saloon car that I take to work and all the rest of it, and then my Stelvio Quad, which is the one that I take the kids out in and I take the dog out in and that kind of stuff. That's like the ideal 3-car Alfa Romeo garage in my head, and mate, how much fun would that be to have that kind of garage? If you're an avid viewer of the channel and you've watched my RS4 versus M3 review, you'll know that I'm not reacting to this in the same way as those cars, right? And that's because those cars offer me something very different. They offer me an experience where it's all about me. I am the mastermind of everything, and if I get anything wrong, then the car will just murder me. In this, it's not like that at all. It's supposed to be comfortable and usable and dailyable and all the rest of it, and it very much is all of those things. And so it's not raw, it's not aggressive, it's not those things. So that part of the Alfa Romeo branding just doesn't exist within this car. It's raw enough to make me smile, just like this. Oh man, I just can't believe how hot hatchy it feels. It's amazing. I'd have this over the Golf R, I'd have this over the A45 by a long way. It's taken that performance SUV, luxurious, all the rest of it kind of mindset, and then it's given it just that little edge, that little rawness to it that's like, yeah, actually, this can be a fun, enjoyable, aggressive experience for the person who likes fun, enjoyable, aggressive experiences when driving cars. And I think the way that it's done that is that it's made itself feel more hot hatchy than it does SUV-y, despite the size. I feel like I'm giving you a big hot hatchback review that has a silly amount of power. So one thing I've not spoken about is the price of these things. They typically start at around 30k nowadays used. This one's up for £36,500 of Motorland. I do think they still have quite a little way to go in terms of depreciation. I do think we'll see these down more into the 20s at some point in the near future. But yeah, from these couple of hours of driving one around, and from being able to do stuff like this, I can absolutely see why you would buy one. I'm gonna leave it there. Long story short, do I like it? Yes. Would I have one? Yes. Yeah, good car, very happy. Not an SUV guy, love this one. Thanks again to Motorland for letting me drive the car. Thanks to you guys for watching, to the patrons for their support. Go click on screen somewhere around here and you'll find a lovely video on possibly another Alfa Romeo. We'll see. See you in the next one.